We earn money, save money, and buy things. Living beyond the economic cycle is impossible. What trends are dictated by world markets and how does it affect consumers? Watch it in People and Economy.
People's appetite for natural resources is increasing from year to year. The need in coal, gas and oil is growing in all parts of the world. Scientists say that this is a high road to a global ecological catastrophe, accompanied by serious climate changes. Currently, the daily consumption of oil all over the world reaches 14 billion liters or 2 liters per rich living person. Even now, many countries try to prevent the ongoing threat. The reduction in the use of traditional fuels is regarded as the best way to address this problem. These days, more and more drivers abandon petrol and opt for gas. It is more eco-friendly and cheaper than common fuel. For example, in Kazakhstan, IE95 gasoline costs less than $1, from $0.41 to $0.42 per liter. The price of methane is even lower and makes up only $0.14. Gas-fueled cars help us to reduce fuel costs approximately by 40%, especially if we go on a long journey and use gas instead of petrol. Another advantage is that it prolongs the engine life because the engine load is much lower. It is worthy of note that according to global petrol prices, Kazakhstan belongs to the category of countries with the lowest prices for gasoline. It is cheaper only in Kuwait, Oman, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ecuador and Turkmenistan. The most expensive fuel, almost $2 per liter, is in Hong Kong.
Since September last year, the government no longer sets a maximum price for the oil. So it's now determined by market forces, by the companies that operate in the gasoline market of Kazakhstan. And the main reason why the oil price now in Kazakhstan is still lower than in other countries is that taxes tend to be rather low.
According to the reports of Energyprom.kz monitoring agency, only by the end of the first 6 months of this year, gasoline prices in Kazakhstan raised by more than 13.5%. The overall production reached 1.5 million tons. The output of diesel fuel also increased by 10.5% and surpassed the mark of 2 million tons. At the same time, the growing fuel prices forced a lot of car owners in Kazakhstan to switch to gas. The number of methane filling stations in the country is increasing from year to year. According to specialists of car service centers, converting a vehicle to natural gas takes 2 to 3 days. Prices vary from $530 and more. These cars are technically sophisticated. They have complex electronic hardware, a lot of wires and control units. The work consists of soldering, cutting and installation of a gas tank. The price depends on the number of cylinders, type of engine and type of gas tank. Thus there are cylindrical and toroidal tanks. Toroidal tanks are wheel-shaped. However, everything depends on the type of car, gas tank and so on. In general, to convert a car on gas costs about 200,000 tenge. Adoljan Bakiev never worried about price variation at the oil market since he converted his car on gas. The increase in the price of gasoline or diesel does not hit his pocket anymore. Adoljan calculated that fueling his iron horse with natural gas was much cheaper than with conventional fuel. For example, Toyota Camry, which I drive, is very cost-effective. The volume of its fuel tank is 60 liters. When I fuel it with IE95 gasoline, which costs 140 to 142 tenge per liter, I pay 8,500 tenge. When I fuel it with gas, I pay only 3,600 tenge. The result is obvious. I save at least 5,000 tenge with a conventional car, and people with bigger vehicles save much more money. Electric cars are also becoming popular throughout the world along with natural gas vehicles. They are very economical and consume 0.25 kilowatts per hour per 1 kilometer. Environmental compatibility and cheaper fuel are among the main advantages of electric cars. They are powered by electricity, which is cheaper than gasoline. Such cars are cost-effective. For comparison, the efficiency of combustion engine vehicles is 30 to 40% and the efficiency of electric cars is 80 to 90%. Petrol prices in Europe are not low. The average cost of 1 liter exceeds €1. The most expensive fuel, almost €2 per liter, is in Norway. And this is despite the fact that the country is known as one of the world's largest oil exporters.
Well, generally in Europe, taxes are rather high. So you typically have the petrol tax. In Norway, in addition, you have an environmental tax, and you have value-added tax, which you also would have in Kazakhstan, of course. If you look at a country like Britain, then you would find that at the current low price for oil, the tax actually makes up about 75% of the sales price of gasoline. In Kazakhstan, by comparison, that is actually less than 20%, just to get you some perspective. As in Britain, we have an oil price, a gasoline price of 500 Kazakhstani tenge. At the moment here in Kazakhstan for AI 92, the price is...
Currently, the Norwegian authorities discuss the issue of abandoning gasoline and diesel fuel by 2025 and need people to switch to eco-friendly vehicles, for instance, electric cars. Currently, such automobiles make up about 25% of the country's car fleet, and local car makers are hard at work on new models in order to encourage the local population to change traditional vehicles on electric ones. Holland has adopted the Norwegian practices and now is looking forward to prohibit registration of cars with gasoline and diesel engines by 2025. The priority will be given to electromotive vehicles. In future, I don't know when exactly, we expect significant changes in the consumption balance. The sales boom of electric cars is only beginning. Not only Tesla but other car makers will be increasing the number of models powered by electric engines. In China, 1 liter of gasoline costs almost $1. There are now about 264 million transport vehicles in the country. 154 million of them are cars. The number of vehicles on Chinese roads is growing every year. At the same time, the ecological situation continues to worsen. So this is not surprising that China, like Norway, is holding a course for vehicle of the future.
China is the country with the second highest numbers of electric cars, next to the US. Japan comes third. You would even say, well, if ever the Chinese government decides that electric cars would be the way to tackle pollution in their cities, then you might see a huge increase of electric car use in China in a very short time.
It is expected that within the next 5 years, the fleet of business motor cars in China will consist of electric, hydrogen or biofuel cars. Along with that, last year Beijing increased sales of vehicles powered by alternative fuels. Since recently, more than 370,000 such automobiles were sold in the country. Currently, the number of new generation vehicles in China reaches almost 500,000. At the moment, the market share of electric and hybrid cars in China is approaching 2%. Currently, the Chinese market is the most powerful and popular. I think that this year it has even surpassed the Chinese market in number of sold vehicles. So we can identify it as a global driving force on the electric car market. In the US, 1 liter of gasoline costs less than $1, or to be more accurate, about 63 cents. However, many Americans prefer to cut their costs on transport and use bicycles or public transport instead of cars. Moreover, the decrease in fuel consumption is expected due to the growing popularity of electric cars. However, this can happen only if the proportion of such vehicles in the country will be at least 35%, analysts say.
In the short term, that would be quite expensive, but if you think of if it's a more long-term project, then I think that certainly can be done. Well, I frankly can't see much of a disadvantage if you assume that there would be an alternative way. At this point in time, I think it is still more expensive to construct a car which is dependent on electric batteries, and it is to build a conventional car. The range of an electric car would be around 400 kilometers. That is also slightly less than with a conventional car. You need to recharge the car, so that takes some time. But eventually, we can see that the technology will be available, where the battery has a range of 800 kilometers, where the battery is much cheaper than it is today.
At the same time, experts are inclined to think that by 2035, electric cars will account only for 10%. At the same time, gasoline prices are believed to drop by 5%. The emergence of new models at reasonable prices of $30,000 and more can also entail increase in sales of electric cars. Currently, vehicles of the future make up only 1% of total car sales. For instance, in America, electric and hybrid cars make up about 0.7–0.8%. So we cannot say that such cars are very popular. Most of Americans prefer big and powerful vehicles, but electric cars in most cases do not answer this category. Nowadays, more and more houses in the United States are equipped with charging stations. Most of them are premium class houses, and this is not surprising because electric cars still remain very costly. Most of such houses are located in California, Florida and Massachusetts. This is due to the fact that in some states the law obliges builders to equip residential buildings with electric charging stations. And those Americans who installed such devices voluntarily can enjoy tax privileges equal to $1,000. In spite of the extensive introduction of alternative fuel vehicles, the demand for gasoline is unlikely to decrease in coming years, say market professionals. They attribute this to the annual increase of car sales in many countries. Thus, only in the US and China the demand for cars rose by 10 and 15% correspondingly. However, electric cars are also becoming popular. This is confirmed by the statistics. During 9 years after the beginning of sales, the number of sold cars reached 1 million. The largest markets are the US and China, with 360,000 and 157,000 vehicles correspondingly. They are followed by Japan, with more than 120,000 automobiles. By the end of this year, analysts expect a record increase in oil consumption. For reference, last year the demand for petrochemicals reached 94 million barrels per day. In 2016, it is expected to exceed 95 million. During 5 years, electric car owners can save more than $7,000, experts say. Such vehicle is capable of covering a distance of at least 150 kilometers without recharge. At the same time, some venturous drivers, instead of buying a factory-made electric car, prefer to redesign conventional vehicles. For those people who cannot afford buying an electric car, there are a lot of tips of how to cut costs and save the family budget. First of all, experienced drivers recommend to monitor the vehicle condition on a regular basis. For example, a dirty filter can increase fuel consumption. Much attention should be paid to engine oil. Thus, oil with lower viscosity ensures better fuel economy. Tire inflation pressure is another factor which affects fuel consumption. Therefore, experts recommend especially to beginning drivers to check it before each trip. The lower is the speed, the lower is fuel consumption. Accurate driving without sharp starts and slowdowns also reduces gas consumption.